Shedeur Sanders sets his clock ticking to end Browns debate. Kevin Stefanski will have a hard time. The quarterback situation at the Cleveland Browns has rarely been straightforward, and with training camp approaching, that trend continues. But is Shedeur Sanders set to emerge as the frontrunner? The 23-year-old is competing against the team's veterans, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, and a fellow rookie out of the Oregon Ducks program in the form of Dillon Gabriel. Yet despite producing impressive numbers with the Colorado Buffaloes, consisting of 4,134 yards and 41 touchdowns in 2024, he has generally languished at the foot of the depth chart due to his out-of-position selection in the 5th round of the 2025 NFL Draft. However, after a slow start to his first offseason, Sanders' progress over the final 2 weeks of spring practices has altered the picture, and Coach Prime could be poised to be well in the mix. Once considered a developmental prospect, the youngster is now firmly in the running to compete for meaningful snaps in training camp as he and his trio of rivals look to impress Kevin Stefanski to land the spot as Deshaun Watson's stand-in. Initially, Sanders struggled with key quarterback responsibilities like commanding the huddle, reading defensive alignments, making protection adjustments, and executing motion shifts. Consequently, he often found himself relegated to the lower units in drills. However, the final 2 weeks of practices told a different story. Sanders went 41 of 53 with 9 touchdowns and just 1 interception, recording the highest completion percentage among all quarterbacks on the roster. His command improved, and he demonstrated poise in orchestrating drives, which is a clear sign that he had begun to close the gap in the mental and procedural aspects of the position. Still running with the fourth-team offense, Mary Cabot wrote. Sanders so impressed the staff with his growing grasp of the pre-snap process during those final 2 weeks that he kept himself in the mix for the starting job and earned more quality reps in training camp. What's next for Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns? Training camp, which begins in late July, is set to become the defining stage of Sanders' rookie season. And according to Cabot, he is expected to receive his first reps with the starting unit and participate in full Team 11 on 11 drills. The Browns' joint practices against the Eagles on August 13th and 14th, followed by their preseason game on August 16th, will be pivotal as these sessions represent Sanders' best chance to convince his head coach he is good enough to be a starter. Joe Flacco, who helped lead the Browns to the playoffs 2 seasons ago, remains the frontrunner for Week 1's clash with the Cincinnati Bengals in September, but the picture could change sooner than expected. In 5 starts with the Browns, he threw for over 1,600 yards and 13 touchdowns, and that performance gives Stefanski a reliable option amid the ongoing search for long-term quarterback consistency. When Shedeur Sanders landed in Cleveland, the air was thick with more than just lake humidity. It carried the weight of expectations, skepticism, and one big question echoing through sports radio stations and locker room whispers. Is he really ready to take the Browns' job? Kevin Stefanski heard it. So did the GM. So did the training staff and every wide receiver running routes in Berea. But no one heard it louder than Shedeur himself. The Browns had options. They always did. That was part of the problem. Veteran quarterbacks with playoff experience. Draft picks still waiting for their breakout moment. And now a Sanders. But this wasn't about legacy. This wasn't about Dion. This was about now. And Shedeur? He set his clock. Not metaphorically. Literally. 5:31 a.m. daily. Not 5:30. Not 5:32. He was superstitious like that. That was the time he set in Boulder, where he made headlines. That was the time he believed the grind began. Same in Cleveland. Stefanski noticed. Kid's the first one in the facility, he told reporters after the first week of camp. Before the lights come on. By week 2, the Browns' QB debate had only heated up. Local columnists were split. Talk shows argued over coffee. Fans camped outside the gates to catch glimpses of practice snaps. Some said the moment was too big for Shedeur. Others believed he was the moment. Shedeur didn't say much. He didn't need to. His throws were speaking for him. A 40-yard dime on a corner route. A tight window slant between 2 linebackers. Poise in the pocket that felt beyond his years. And the clock kept ticking. Not toward a deadline, but toward something more personal. Proof. Kevin Stefanski wasn't in denial. He knew what was coming if Shedeur kept performing like this. A quarterback controversy that might make or break his season. Or his job. You drafted a quarterback with swagger, the GM had told him during draft night. Now you've got to let him cook. But swagger doesn't win in November. Execution does. Patience does. The Browns had tried swagger before, and it hadn't ended well. So Stefanski did what coaches do. He tested Shedeur. Extra blitz packages in practice. Complicated coverage disguises. Rotating receivers. Tough media questions. Cold silence in quarterback meetings. Anything to crack the rookie's rhythm. But every morning, 5:31. Lights on. Clock ticking. Shedeur smiled through it all. After a particularly brutal scrimmage, rain falling sideways, 3 sacks in the first 5 plays, Stefanski caught Shedeur in the film room alone. "You mad?" the coach asked. Shedeur turned, eyes still on the screen. "Nope. Just adjusting." "You sure?" "I dialed up stuff we don't even use in real games." "Then that's free training." Stefanski didn't respond. He just nodded. Somewhere deep down, he felt the shift happening. The rookie wasn't folding. The Browns' preseason opener arrived like a storm. Stadium full. Cameras rolling. All eyes on who would start. And when Shedeur jogged onto the field for the first series, the stadium buzzed. Not because it was official, but because it felt inevitable. He commanded the huddle like a veteran. Called out blitzes like a coordinator. Threw a touchdown on his 3rd drive, then another before halftime. The sideline exploded. Stefanski didn't. He just stared at his play sheet and muttered to no one in particular. "Well, damn.